Because of the surge of interest in 1980s dark fantasy films, I thought I'd talk about the 87 Japanese-American co-production Yume Nikki, adapted from the classic Famicom game from '84. My dad brought me back a bootleg VHS of the film from business trip to Tokyo. It has this publicity postcard with it, which I thought I'd scan. So this is the original promotional poster for the film, and it was still going under the working title of Yink. As mentioned, it was a Famicom game. I do wonder whether this was a deliberate attempt to forge a confused association with the more successful Legend of Zelda game from '86. You can see the apartment block where Madotsky lives, only features briefly in the film, however. Now, perhaps more famous than the film itself is the fact that the only recently formed Dark Horse Comics released a tie-in comic to coincide with the film's release. I'd argue that the comic actually adheres a bit more closely to the atmosphere of the original game, and is a really sought-after collector's item now. Personally, I prefer the rather more baroque version of the doorroom in the comic to the starker version you get in the film, but maybe that's just the advantage of comics as an illustrative medium. And the comics were coming out not long before Neil Gaiman's Sandman comics. I can definitely see some creative synergies between them. Sadly, I think the illustrator, David Bryce, disappeared after the second issue was released, which is a shame. Could have become a long-running series. So on to some shots from the film. I actually think some of the formal compositions here remind me of the symmetrical framing of Jean-Pierre Jeunet's work, particularly City of Lost Children and Delicatessen, but the director was not French, but Japanese, Hayashi Hideo, who also directed the more famous Legend of Zelda film adaptation, which I've seen quite a lot of videos about lately. Originally, Nobuhiko Obayashi was attached to the film, but ended up directing The Drifting Classroom instead. The film can be a little dreary at times, though it is really haunting. It is interesting to think what it would have been like with the kind of manic energy Obayashi tends to bring to proceedings. Anyway, these shots are all from the film's opening montage, which depicts Madotsky as a young child in various locations from the game. The film keeps it quite ambiguous whether Madotsky was born in this environment, or whether this is a dream space that she occupied as a child. Either way, it really allows the set designers to go to town with some of the more memorable locations from the game, which makes for a really striking, densely packed opening 10 minutes of the film. This is the wilderness, which you see briefly in these great panoramic long shots. Okay, so this is Yuboa's first appearance in the film. He's a kind of sinister father figure, or perhaps mentor to Madotsky as a child. The still image doesn't really capture how liquid and rubbery its face is. It's really creepy when its face curls up into this crooked half smile. Yeah, there's some great stop motion effects throughout the film, actually. So the tiles here in Mural World swirl around and form these neat patterns. It reminds me a bit of the Fell in Love with a Girl music video by Michel Gondry, The White Stripes. Anyway, here's Boneko. For some reason they decided to go with pigtails rather than a ponytail. I don't know if that was the costume designer's decision. So she's introduced here at the end of the opening sequence, and she's a bit of a MacGuffin, really. She's the reason that Madotsky returns to this dream world as a young adult when she finds out that she's in trouble. So she travels through the sewers, a bit of a liminal space that bridged the dream world to the real world, kind of a symbol of the unconscious, I guess. And she emerges up this staircase into the real world, where she then lives out the rest of her childhood. Doesn't seem to have any parents or family. She seems happy enough playing that Natsu video game with the falling eggplants. Until, now as a young adult, she's a nightmare, which she is visited by Kuyu-kun, who I almost found quite placid in the game, but is outright evil here. So he taunts Madotsky that he has imprisoned Boneko and is going to devour her, and that Madotsky must return to Dreamworld to save her. He kind of looks like a monster from the Henson Creature Shop, and pursues her down the staircase back into the dream world. And to be honest, as a kid, I checked out around here, and the film only gets darker and more disturbing. These are some of Kun's minions. I think these previous ones were based on cyclopean creatures in the game. Have two eyes here. So basically, Kun has been getting monsters to trap children who visit this world in their dreams. The children he doesn't devour transform into Turinningen, who are originally going to all be played by Shelley Duvall, right off the back of Fairy Tale Theatre, and they all speak with this warbling, high-pitched voice, and Hayashi Hideo uses that fast motion trick they used in Jacob's Ladder to make her head twitch about. And they're not actually evil, just kind of manic and weird. And the Piori turn out to be transformed versions of the parents who travelled to the dream world to try to rescue their kidnapped children. It's quite a nice, melancholy touch. Anyway, Madotsuki does make some friends and allies along the way, form a kind of dream warriors-like gang. So you have the wise-cracking neon parrot and Aztec rave monkey. Possibly a bit problematic now. I'm not very good at pronouncing this guy's name. Sekum Masada Sensei. Looking like a Tim Burton character, but very friendly. Anyway, they all band together to try to reach Kyu-Kyu-kun's lair and rescue Honoko. And after some slightly Goonies-like or Indiana Jones-style adventures, they end up in the mall. And here the pace of the film really slows down, and the characters start to forget who they are. Like, their identities seem to start blurring, and possibly they're all meant to just be aspects of Madotsuki's personality. I don't know, the film gets a bit incoherent at this point, until Madotsuki ends up in this waiting room where you have a character shaped like the letter E, just playing a flute. This really eerie, haunting melody. And you get this long static take. There's a point of view shot from Madotsuki, you can just hear the flute, and it's held for like 10 minutes, and then the film just ends. Right, cuts to black. So they never reach the lair, they never rescue Honoko or the other children. I think the production ran out of budget. Okay, which is a real shame because, as you can see, there's this concept art which you can find knocking about the internet, which suggests that Madotsuki and the gang were meant to keep exploring, and like Jason, possibly end up in hell itself. And I suspect that's when you would have got that really dark ending of the original game. But believe it or not, you know, this was marketed as a children's film, so maybe they just decided not to go with that. I don't know. 1980s was a weird decade. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please put any comments if you have seen the film. I know it's hard to track down. And any bits that particularly made an impression on you. Hopefully folks in Hollywood will see all this and bring back the dark fantasy genre. Thank you.